Hey there, and welcome to our professional development coffee chat. Today, we're talking about starting the new year using the four agreements. Now, this is based on the book by Don Miguel Ruiz. And the title of the book is The Four Agreements. And these principles have been a game changer for me in my personal development. In my career, I focus on professional development, but I am a firm believer that no matter where you're trying to go in your career, your job, your profession, that part of you will never outgrow who you are as a person. So it is important to develop both sides, your personal side and your professional side. My name is Flora Gomez. I'm a professional development strategist for early childhood educators, and I help programs to build competent and confident teaching teams by overcoming challenges in staff development and also supporting best leadership practices. Now, I've been in the field for almost 20 years. At the end of this year, I'll be celebrating my 20th year in early childhood education, and I've worked in various capacities. I've worked in family child care programs, center-based and community-based programs, and I've also done a lot of consulting work and high-stakes assessment with my State Board of Education and our quality rating and improvement system. So this experience has allowed me to see early childhood education from various lenses. And one of the things that I always remember is wishing, one, as a teacher and director, that I had certain feedback that I just wasn't getting, whether it was somebody else coming to observe me and provide feedback. There was just certain things I wanted to know that I wasn't getting the answers to. And then when I went over to the assessment side, there were things that I really wished I could say and share with the teacher or program leader that I just couldn't because of the nature of my work. So now that I am full-time training and consulting again, I get to share all of those things that are important. And the first thing I like to highlight are the professional development mistakes that we're making in early childhood education. I won't spend too much time with that here. I have it in a free training that you can access. I'll put the link in the comments, but if you're interested, it's bit.ly/PD mistakes. And that's all lowercase letters. Again, I'll attach the link in the comments, so don't worry about it. Let's get into these four agreements. I'm going to give you a nice overview and what some of my takeaways are. I know that this is a time of the year where everyone is setting, resolutions and goals and really mapping out what we hope to accomplish. And a lot of those things tend to be tangible, right? So we have the career goals, the family goals, the financial goals, the health goals. I know for me, I've already set my target weight loss goal for the year. And I'm just like, yes, this is going to be the year that I do all of the things. But what I realize is that we set these goals and we make these plans, but we don't really examine who we are as a person and who we have to be and become in order to accomplish those things. And like I said, the four agreements is a great place to start in terms of your personal development when it comes to leading our programs and when we're setting goals and making plans in the early childhood space. So before I dive in deep to each of those agreements and how they really resonate with me and what I want you to think about when it comes to your program, I just want you to understand the way I think. When I think about quality improvement in the early childhood setting, I'm really thinking of three different components. First is the overall program. This is everything it takes to operate an ECE program. So it's your daily operations, it's the finances, the education, the maintenance of the program, it's your food service, right? Your health and nutrition, everything that goes into running the day-to-day of an early childhood program. Then I want us to think about the teaching staff. I put them in their own buckets because they have very specific and unique needs that we need to understand and be aware of so that we can address them. I believe in giving teachers the tools and the resources they need to be successful. Okay. Yes, we have education, we have degrees and credentials and certificates and all of the things. And sometimes it's just not enough. We need a little bit more. And we know that when we're running programs that are based on what research tells us about how young children develop and grow and how we should best support them, sometimes those things change as we find out more information. So we want to make sure that we're continuously feeding our teachers what they need. Okay. And the last area, which is probably the most important to many of you, are the children and the families. And that's because this is who we provide the service for, right? Without children in our program and their families who bring them to us, there would be no need for the teachers or any of those other things that I mentioned before. So there are 3 levels that I want us to apply this information to. All right. So before I move forward, I want to know a little bit more about you. So please let me know in the comments where you're from, what your role is. And just for fun, I am a coffee addict, recovering, right? So I've started to switch from full calf over to half calf. So I have my cup of half caffeinated coffee. Maybe in a few weeks, I'll be down to decaf just because I enjoy coffee. I don't necessarily need all of the caffeine and the buzz that comes along with it, right? But just tell me, do you drink coffee or do you not? Let me know in the chat and the comments. I'm going to make sure I respond to you, okay? So I'm looking for your comments. So let's get into the first agreement. Number 1, be impeccable with your word. This is so huge. And I think I'm starting to see this become more and more important each day as I listen to how people talk about the work they do in early childhood. Now, don't get me wrong, there are a lot of great things being said, but the reality of it is that many programs are still experiencing a lot of challenges with just the operations, right? Day-to-day operations. They're having challenges with staff, they're having challenges with children and challenging behaviors, and more children being identified to have special needs and disabilities, right? So there are just so many different layers that come along. It's real easy to say this program gets on my nerves, right? Or I can't stand that teacher, or I just hope that child doesn't come to school today. All of these things I've heard. I'll be honest, I've probably even said at one point in time, but what I've learned is that it does not serve us to speak that way. Okay. It does not serve us to speak negatively about our programs, about our staff, about our students and families. Now, I'm not saying that you have to walk around like everything is perfect and say, I love it here, if you really don't, because it's disingenuous and it doesn't serve anyone, right? But I do believe that our words create our world. So what we speak, we end up speaking into existence. And a lot of times we talk about being careful about what we say, but we got to remember that before it comes out of our mouth, it's in our head. So I want you to take a moment to think about what thoughts and feelings are you having about your program, no matter what level you are. If you're a director, a principal, a teacher, a coordinator, whatever role you're playing, I want you to think about what are you currently thinking and feeling about it, and see how you can reframe it. Okay. So if it's a negative thought, see how can we change this into a more positive approach so that we can start to speak differently. And guess what? Our actions are going to follow our words. If you wake up every day and say, I hate my job as a teacher, guess what? You will always have something to hate. If you are a leader and your teachers always get on your nerves, guess what? They're going to always do things to get on your nerves, because the actions follow the words and the words follow the thought. So the first thing we might want to do is change the way we think. I love affirmations. I also share a few with you all. I'll put them in the comments, but I love affirmations, right? Positive affirmations. Speak things as they are in the present, not how you wish for them to be in the future. As you start to speak it and live it as though it is today, you should see some results. Okay. That's going to lead me to our second agreement, which is do not take anything personally. Okay. When I first came into education, I started off majoring in elementary. So I really anticipated spending most of my time with students and having, of course, some interactions with families, because I know the value of partnering with parents for their children's education. But early childhood is a different ball game. We're seeing parents sometimes at least twice a day at drop off and pick up. And let's not talk about the interactions that happen in between. We need to make sure that as we're interacting with parents, family members, other teachers, other leaders in the program, that we don't allow their behavior to dictate who we are and what we do. Okay. There are people who are going to just not be happy. They are going to do things that don't serve us or that aren't in the best interest, and you can't take it personal. Don't my thought that I always go back to when people are doing things or things happen that don't align with what I desire, I always say it's not about you. Whatever that situation was, it wasn't about you. Okay. And if it is, then we have an opportunity to maybe clarify some things or clear some things up. But for the most part, don't take it personal. I personally will live in a bubble, a figurative bubble, right? And when I go into spaces with a lot of people, just to keep myself grounded, I will put a imaginary bubble around me. So when there are words being spoken that I don't necessarily want to hear, or people are doing things, I have created this shell that protects me. It can only get so close, right? And I will even go as far as to keeping some physical distance if I think it will help me to stay grounded and centered and protect me from whatever the mess is that's going on in other places. And I like to say, don't take it personal, because sometimes people are dealing with things that they can't articulate and they need their own time to process, and it spills out, right? It spills over into other areas of their life. And unfortunately, when you have to share space with people, it's horrible. Just imagine if somebody passed gas in a room next to you and you smell it, right? They didn't do it on purpose to offend you, but you feel the residuals. You can smell the residuals of it. Don't take it personal. Move them over there. Give them a few feet so you can distance yourself and get into clean, fresh air. Okay. That was the best example I could pull right now. So if you're laughing at me about that, you know what it's like when somebody let a bomb loose, right? You don't want to be in that area. Same thing. When people have things going on, they have a nasty attitude, we don't want to consume ourselves with it. So do what you need to do to protect yourself. Just don't take it personal. Okay. The third agreement is to not make assumptions. Don't make assumptions. Don't assume. And I think that now more than ever, as we're continuing to evolve, we're learning more, we're doing more, we want to focus on asking more questions and making less comments. Okay. So if there's an opportunity to clarify, if you're wondering about something, if you come across a situation that makes you go, right? Ask questions to get a better understanding. Don't assume, because when you make an assumption, you cut yourself off from gaining the clarity that you need to move forward. Okay. So you want to make sure we're asking questions, or even if I thought somebody was upset with me that I did something to offend, I'm not going to say, well, what I do to upset you, or just assume that it was me. I'm going to ask, hey, what's going on? Right. Let's talk about these interactions we've been having and see what we can do to improve them. So I really want us to ask more questions to clarify, to gain a better understanding, but just don't make assumptions. And our last agreement is to always do your best. I know that we are on a high. I know I'm excited about the new year, right? I've set my goals. I don't really make resolutions, but I have set some goals for some things I like to do and accomplish this year. And my thing is, we got to always do our best. And doing your best, I have a 10-year-old, right? And sometimes she does not do her best. Or she doesn't complete a task, or she doesn't do it to her best ability. And she'll just say, well, I did my best. And I'm like, that wasn't your best. You didn't give it your best. I believe in working in excellence, not perfection. But when you go that extra mile, when you do all that you can do, you will start to grow and improve anyway, right? So don't settle for good enough or the bare minimum. Do the best that you can do, because that's where we're going to start to grow. Once you start to tap out and max out your personal best, then you're going to have to stretch. Okay, now we're going to start building new muscle, but there is no growth in settling for mediocrity and doing the bare minimum. So I want us to think about that. Give it your all. We're working in excellence, the spirit of excellence, not necessarily perfection. Okay. So just a quick recap. The 4 agreements. Go get your own copy of the book by Don Miguel Ruiz. Is to be impeccable with your word. So watch your mouth, watch what you're saying in front of other people, especially, right? But it's the things that we say that people don't hear, that the children don't hear. So I'm thinking about, like, if we're in a classroom, be mindful of how you talk about children around them to other adults. Be mindful of how you talk about your teachers to other teachers or staff members, right? Just watch your mouth. That's the best way I can describe it. But in order to watch your mouth, you have to watch your thoughts. The second one, again, is to not take anything personally, because guess what? It ain't about you. Whatever other people have going on, they are dealing with their own things. Don't make other people's things about you. The third agreement is to not make assumptions. And this goes hand in hand with agreement number 2. Don't assume. If you are wondering about something, if you're uncomfortable, ask more questions, make less statements. Don't be so sure. When you assume, again, you're cutting off your opportunity to get the clarification you need to make a situation better. And last but not least, always do your best. Go above and beyond when you can. Now, I ain't gonna lie, there's some things that we don't necessarily have to go above and beyond, but when you're moving with a spirit of excellence, we're not gonna settle for mediocrity. We're not gonna do the bare minimum. We're going to lead by example for the teachers that we're leading, for the families that are looking to us to provide an example of what they should be doing, with their children. And then we're also being role models for the children that we serve. So remember, we got to look at it at all 3 levels. How do what I say and do, what I think, impact the whole program, the teachers, and the children and families? I'm going to go ahead and wrap up. If you are interested in more, make sure you join me for the next professional development chat. We're going to be having these quite often. Pick up your copy of the 4 agreements. It has been a game changer for me. And while we're talking about setting goals, I do have a goal setting workbook for early childhood leaders to just help you set clear and actionable goals for your early childhood program. It's perfect time to just get clarity about what you want to do and where you want to go in your program. I have a framework that I've used multiple times. I've shared it with my consulting clients, and it's been a game changer. Okay. I call it the workshop in a workbook. Okay. I don't believe that a workshop is always the best form of professional development. There are so many ways that we can improve as educators that does not require us to sit in trainings. I saw a post from a teacher not too long ago to talk about this is a time of the year where we're about to PD teachers to death. And that's only because we're using the one form of professional development, which is workshops. And there's so many other ways that we can support teaching staff. So make sure you stay connected with me. Follow, subscribe on all the platforms. I love to hear from you. Put your responses in the comments. Let me know what you think about this professional development chat. And also share with me some additional topics that you would like for me to discuss. I'll link all of the resources that I discussed today in the comments, and I look forward to seeing you next time.